Hello. So I've been meaning to do this slowly in phases, but I'm thinking let me try and capture the content of this as much as possible. So the idea is about the shape of a human being. Okay. Now I watched a video about an octopus. They have these suckers in there. They have 9 brains, one central brain, and 9 brains in each of its arms. Okay, 8 brains in each of its arms. Now I was thinking, we humans are like suckers. Yeah, we hold on to at least the idea of the Ashtanga Yoga. It's talking about 8 arms, or rather 8 limbs of the practice. So we're at least like octopuses. Yeah, in the sense, yoga itself talks about 8 parts to it, 8 limbs, and music also is talking about octaves. Yeah, and then it's from not knowing our lower self and higher self. That's also like the lower self, or the basic sound, and then the higher sound of basic, which forms the next octave. Lower self, higher self are related, but sometimes from not knowing that, we sometimes don't know the range that we are headed, for example. But there's also the idea of the Ashtalakshmi. Yeah, she's talking about 8 banks or 8 forms of wealth. Now, say even in terms of sacred geometry, there's this idea of seed of life that has 7 circles, the 8th circle being the beginning of the next, apparently. But I'm just thinking, until the 7, comes together, and that becomes the first circle that then starts the next cycle, you haven't really gotten the seed together. There's 7 circles, but it needs to kind of round up into this seed becoming the first circle for the next phase, like an octave. I don't know if this has been seen that way, but I'm thinking this needs to be there, because sometimes Krishna is said to be the 8th child. Yeah. So I'm thinking there's mythologically or cosmically, there has been some messages which has been conveyed but not quite understood, maybe. And so the 8th circle, maybe the higher self, may or may not be quite discovered, but the music of life is not really complete without our 8th sound. Yeah. Or and this 8th is the beginning of the next phase. For example, when we say me and you, or I and you, and we have this idea of I love you. So I and you is not, I love you is not really complete without I and you being gotten. So I'm thinking the you would also be maybe the next circle, which begins with the first circle on repeat, So the 8th circle becomes the first circle for the next developmental curve. So on that note, an octopus comes a little handy, the idea of energy vampires. Yeah. Now, if we consider that humans are at least having Ashtanga, and we are not limited to 8, we're like a dandelion head. You got lots of YouTubes, like this idea of the string theory, or the Nataraja, mythologically, where there is a central figure, like a dandelion head, with lots of connection, And we are like that, each human. And we're all related in many ways to different forms of life on Earth. Yeah. So we are like this dandelion head. So we know where all our connections are. Yeah. And sometimes our noodles are a little tangled because we think about all kinds of things. We even think about outer space and universe and multiverse. Yeah. So we're kind of connected in many ways. They say quantum entanglement. Yeah. Um, and the string theory is also about, for example, there is a software and then there's a hardware of the, let's just say, the software being like body, which is not quite visible because our connection with our body is not so very fine. WHO's list of diseases is talking about we haven't really figured out the human body, maybe, yeah, or what causes the diseases and what all it takes to heal it. Because if it was all figured out, we wouldn't have diseases. I cannot say per se because we are still in different stages of figuring out, for example, what better to eat, how to be healthy, what all it takes to be healthy, including humanity cross boundaries. We're still discovering Earth in ways we haven't before because we were warring tribes, yeah? And then we've come to more civilization. There's internet, and so we're still in different stages of getting to as civil as we could be, yeah? And that includes, but is not limited to, knowing what does a human body look and feel like. What is the shape of a body? And this video is attempting to talk about an idea I have. Maybe this gives some perspective. So we're at least 8, like an octopus, yeah? And I've been thinking, we are like the universe, each of us, the walkie-talkie universes. Now, this comes from the idea. I saw YouTube, Instagram, something video that says our human DNA has a capacity of storing memory up to, say, the universe is said to be 13.7, 14-ish billion light years big, wide, yeah, expanse, the size of the universe, and that our DNA is capable of storing that much of information, yeah. So we are basically walkie-talkie universes in that sense. And I'm thinking the jungle, in the sense the flora, fauna, just about everything that we know of as life, is also there in our genetic make. It's there in our compositional make, and it's the idea of the garden of life, or the Garden of Eden, is about us being civil enough, yeah, such that we're not having multiple personality disorders, for example, or those kinds of concerns. So where the animals and the plants, the microbes, and different aspects that make life life, we're not kind of, we know what is civility and what is wild, yeah. That discernment is either there or not, depending on what we're eating, how we are taking care of ourselves, what thought lines we function by, what we do in life, and what we know or don't know, and how much we take care of each other, those who do know and those who don't know, yeah. And how do we educate each other on what is those developmental challenges, which is or is not, to what extent, and what would help us bridge those gaps so that we are having more civil behavior. And that at least begins from the shape of our own body, of a human body. And then we have male and female of the species, yeah, like black and white, if you're not taking the rainbow gender concerns, gender spectrum. Now, consider, I've spoken about the idea of the dandelion head. There are lots of YouTube, lots of connections. And Rumi has been speaking about discover the walls you have built around your heart. Yeah, your job is not to seek love, but to discover the walls you've built around your heart against love. Now I'm thinking, we're all having nerves, and we think sometimes in specific ways, um, such that nerves form sheath, such that there is faster movement of signals through that, and that forms like noodles, yeah, nerve neuron sheaths. So our noodles may be a little entangled. That is, of course, when we've taken time enough to discern which is right, which is wrong, and which is better thought about. Sometimes we have fixed ways of thinking, which means the signals are passing only through certain ways, and there has not been neuroplasticity, new ways of thinking by which connections are diverse, and there is more humanity across boundaries. For example, if you've kind of thought of against, say, females, or thought of against animals, then you are less likely to be considerate about them, and you're thinking in specific ways, and the behaviors are given by them. So, fat, because those nerve sheaths, it's made up of fat, yeah? Now, um, so the walls that Rumi has been speaking about, that we build around our heart, and I'm thinking our whole human body is a heart, because just like the cardiac muscle complex, which has the voluntary and involuntary muscles, our body is made up of voluntary and involuntary muscles, functioning in very specific ways. So to that extent, our whole human body is the heart. It's just the cardiac muscle complex is a representation, yeah? So we can think about our body, or like the micro and macro, let's just say there's the basic cell, you have the heart for a representation for, basic idea of cell, and then the whole body, like the octave, yeah? So um, sometimes our difficulty in connecting with the lower self and higher self, so the cardiac muscle complex, like, oh, the object, yeah? But you don't quite see the whole body like cardiac muscle complex, yeah, like heart. And then there is this what we are looking like? The shape of our body, is this all that there is? For example, there's this idea of an aura, yeah, which they say is around our body. It's like a light, so much feet around us. And according to the health, if a person is not very healthy, then the aura is a little less. And when they are more healthy, then the aura is a little bigger. That's the idea. So if we consider that there are no contradictions in life, and then there is a lack of perspective, say Ayurveda sees the body from a particular perspective, homeopathy sees from a particular perspective, pranic healers, scientists, particle, waves. So depending on which perspective somebody's looking at our own body from, accordingly is the six blind men and the elephant. The idea of it, that each one have their own prejudice on what this is, and then looks at the elephant or the human body in that particular way and see only what they can see, because there are fixed ways of thinking. Fat, yeah? So what we can consider, not consider, depends on what we have kind of closed off our heart to what extent fat deposit has formed noodles out of our body. So in that sense, psychotherapists refer to the mind like several snakes, yeah? Say for example, de-addiction. I watched a movie about alcohol de-addiction. That they're talking about in the recovery process, the patient, yeah, speaks about what's the image, what kind of dreams do you have, is what the therapist asks, and she says, I see many snakes, kind of moving. And then that's how the therapist knows, oh, she's in different stages of recovery. So these are all different ways by which kind of like this conscious, subconscious, and conscious processes move. So what stage of development? So mind has been discovered as like snakes, yeah? And when it's all sorted, you're not um, um, tangled, yeah? So multiple personality disorders, and there's this idea of Medusa, who's said to be like a, many snaked head, snake, like hair like snake. So when our mind is not very sorted out, yeah, is like a lion's head, all over the place. So, um, historically, mythologically, there have been many attempts to try to represent the condition of being human. Dandelion head, yeah. So that's my idea of what the mind sorted out would look like, where the snakes are not tangled, yeah. Or the noodles are more sorted out. That's more relatable in relationship with the brain. But we don't relate our whole body to be like the brain because we have nerves everywhere, and um, and some of our nerves may be finely innervated with our muscles. To that extent, we can feel our body, yeah. And to the extent that there is not so much of innervation of our nerves and the muscles, um, some of us are super sensitive. We can feel everything, and then it's about processing it. And then some of us are not. Even if your body may be kind of cold from how much you may be kind of retracted from not being ready to engage with the world outside, um, because maybe because of traumatic practices, maybe because of um, toxins in the environment that you don't really want to connect with life out there. You could have Raynaud's phenomenon, for example. Yeah. So to that extent, you may be a little more bluish in the sense your nervous innervation is not very fine. You're watching life from within inside. Yeah. So so to that extent, it could also be the nerve, how the nerves are fatted. Fat coating is there or not. So where am I getting with this? Okay, mythologically, there are, at least I'm talking in terms of Indian mythology, I think there has been an attempt to represent the shape of a human body by, there's this idea of gods and goddesses, many hands and many heads and many legs. I don't know, many legs, many hands, yeah. And I think they have been attempting to represent the shape of a human body. There's this idea of, I cannot really say Durga, because I think there's this idea of, well, let's just say Shakti or Lakshmi. Vishnu's consort, partner, said to be kind of Lakshmi, yeah? I'm not using the exact words for the relationship. Brahma and Saraswati, and Shiva and Sati or Parvati, yeah, that way. And if we consider, we put them all together, kind of like, then you kind of have, I'm thinking 20, yeah? Light and dark self, yeah? There's a light and dark sides, which people call as a Sur and Asur, or the good wolf, bad wolf. But Hatha Yoga is also talking about Ha and Tha as in two aspects. The light, or the Ida Pingala, yeah? So there are dual nature, the yin and yang kind, yeah? So there are dual nature. And then it's about how we take care of both sides. So I'm thinking 20, like 20 hands. I don't know if there is 20 heads, yeah? Because the idea of Ravana is talking about 10 heads. And I'm thinking, nature, nurture, male, female, Ardhanarishwar. So if you consider that each person have their own complementary partner, so then there's 10 heads and 10, male head, 10 female heads in that sense. But I'm thinking each person have light and dark self. So in together I'm thinking 40. Yeah. And we have Alibaba and the 40 thieves. Yeah. So thinking people from different parts of the world have been trying to say something. And it's about how effectively has it been communicated. And then some people have some books. Other people could not get access to their books, maybe because the books went up in flames. And so they got some part of it, so some other people got some other parts of it. There have been attempts to bring all of them together. So there have been many, say for example, colonialization. And so some books got either lost or were attempted to be, spoken two different cultures, but one culture saw, oh, they are what is it? Um, they're rudimentary. They have pagan cultures and disregard them, and so we had this, the 6 and 9, and I'm right, you're wrong, and so lack of perspective. So some books have gotten. It's not just about the books, but it's also about how the information was, you know, communicated over time. I'm thinking 40. So we have Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. And the idea of Shabarimala, they're talking about 41 days or 40 days, 41, okay. A mandala is said to be like 41 cycles, I think. But I'm thinking 41 days of Vrata, Shabarimala, I don't know. 40 days, 41 days. Okay. So they talk, and then they're talking about 18 steps, yeah, and all that. If we don't go into that right now, but if we just go into the shape of the human body, I'm thinking the 18 steps is also steps by which you come to one stage of becoming a humane being. To that extent, so until then, you're in different stages of, you have your animal nature, or you have your plant nature, microbial nature, that you need to then step beyond, and that you need to step up. It's like the biblical 7 mountains. Here, this is 18, yeah. So, and if you consider developmental stages, that there are many steps, and that there may not have been a comprehensive bringing together of these many ways of thinking about the condition of being human. And we have WHO's list of diseases, and we have economic challenges, longevity concerns. If you go by the idea that the movie Avatar is talking about sky people, yeah, attempting to mine unobtainium from Pandora, which I'm thinking is or the universe like alive before the Big Bang, is what I'm thinking, yeah, and or some conception of it. I'm thinking we are not just universe. Each of us is a multiverse, because we have flora, fauna, and seasons, yeah, all kinds of animals and plants, and so I think each of us is a walkie-talkie multiverse, yeah, and so we have gut flora, microbes, plants, animals, but the condition of being human is not quite figured out, the shape of our body. And I'm thinking 40, yeah, 40 hands, yeah, 20 heads, okay, 40 heads, okay. Hey, that's like, in the story of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, they're talking about 40 barrels with thieves and hot oil. No. So we may have been trying in different ways to control the condition of being human, so that we are within limits, but not quite knowing. And then there's this light and dark self aspects to our body. Now, I mentioned about the movie Avatar because that's talking about incarnation, like so programmed somewhere out there in the sky, yeah, and then incarnated like a software into a body on this side, like one of the people on the earth side, yeah, and then required to function in a way that is like human, or like the people from Pandora, yeah, and then it's about we have a tail like tucked in our body, not out there, but animals have tails out, yeah. So the movie has been trying to say many things, I think, and if we consider that having come here, now we are a lot of avatars, yeah. Um, and for example, there was this idea of, you know, um, technology, and Pandora faced all those technological problems, effects of technology, such that Pandora faced fire, Tree of Souls, and yeah. So was not as healthy as before the Sky People came. Yeah. Now, civilization in that sense has also been in different stages of coming to civilization. So you're not warring tribes. And there's still the search of where are the aliens? Yeah, we keep looking for signs of life outside. What if we are like several of these avatars on Earth, not quite figured out where we come from, what are we made up of, and we are like figuring it out. Yeah. So there have been many civilizations since the Avatar movie. Yeah. And we are still in different stages of getting our Earth, Pandora together, and so the movie Finding Dory, Pandora or Dory, requires Dory to find the seashells, to find a way back home. Yeah. And there are people searching for aliens. Yeah. What if the alien material is in our genetic content? Yeah. And we in the sense, there's also those theories, and we're looking for UFOs, but it's about discovering how to live in our bodysuit. That has been facing certain problem, because this bodysuit is from Earth, like planet Earth. People talk about spacesuit and then going to different planets, and bodysuit is like our spacesuit, and we haven't really figured out what does this spacesuit, bodysuit, actually made up of. Yeah. It's like having a phone and not really discovering what all features the phone has. And WHO's list of diseases there, and we're still figuring out how to have longevity, health, and economic sustainability and all that. Yeah. Then, so I'm kind of trying to describe the shape, discover too, and describe the shape of a human body. And then we have the male and female species and different age groups. We're a civilization of people who are still figuring out what does it mean to be on Earth, and having a bodysuit, spacesuit, and searching for space. Yeah, looking for life in space, but haven't quite included space as an element in the periodic table, for example. Yeah. And I'm saying 40. Yeah. What I'm trying to not directly go to speak about is the light and dark sides. Over the 2 years of the pandemic, now I've been a clinical health facilitator, and from a biodynamic perspective, which means I don't use medicines or instruments or crystals or sounds or chanting or visualization, any of that. So it's a responsive, I work with the animating principle of a body, yeah, that which maintains an alive being mobile, yeah, the way, say, a chair or what have you, a phone, a pen, is not voluntarily moving, yeah. So I work with that animating principle of a body, of a human, yeah. And I study life and its rhythms, yeah. Now, having said that, I have consequently, like Ayurveda, allopathy, homeopathy, have a different perspective, take on what life is and what the condition of being human is. I have a take on what the condition of being human is and what does it take to be healthy. So from this perspective, when I look at life, and I look at why do we have WHO's list of diseases, I have a certain way of thinking, yeah? So I'm speaking from there. Now, having said that, I'm trying to not lose my train of thought. There's also something that I'm trying to not directly speak about. Okay. I have also been studying food patterns. Now, in the 2 years of the pandemic, I was healing my own body from, say, the corona effects. Yeah, you go out somewhere and you have, say, the um, infection symptoms. For you're having the sniffles, and then you do need to heal, and you don't know if it's a common cold or if it's COVID. Yeah, I'm talking about during the pandemic time. And me being a clinical health facilitator, I started observing my own body on how my physiology responds to, say, sniffles. Yeah, what does my physiology go through? Say there is a raise in temperature. Now, why is that happening? What is fever? It's a symptom. It's a symptom of an infection, an inflammation, something not feeling right enough, and the body is responding in a particular way to ward off the challenge. So, immunity and different physiological processes. So, I've been studying this during these 2 years of the pandemic. And more, because there was something more than just a common cold, and I was required to take a injection. Yeah, so it gave me more of an opportunity to see what happens when a inoculated version of a strain is injected into the body, and how does the body respond. So what is the body's response to a vaccine? So I've been studying all of this. And then there is one shot and then booster shot, and so I've had opportunity to study my body. And also there are people around, yeah, even hearing news about lockdowns and many other things. So I've been able to study life in many layers. Yeah, so what I'm talking is coming from those studies too, on the condition of being human. And one of the things that did show up for me is, as I've been listening to life and its rhythms, I thought the COVID, yeah, tiny virus, is mother life, yeah, angry, and in some way trying to, get off this infectious, violent culture and then get a more saner strain of life, like a lab, yeah, like Hitler tried to ward off infection and to protect his country and culture, like mother life trying to. And there was a sense that because I pay attention to life and I've been healing my own self, and I was also noticing, well, this is going to sound like a believe it or not, I was also noticing that when I paid attention to my own body in a particular way, the lockdowns were lifting. Yeah, in the sense, the strains were not as death causing. Yeah, such that the numbers were coming down, and the lockdowns were lifting. And then after some time, you just go about your activities. You just all, yeah, life then again moves into similar patterns, and then there comes another strain. And I'm like, did I do so? You notice a pattern, and then you see maybe it was a fluke, maybe I'm just in my own head, and then over time, once you see, twice you see, and then I'm doing something, yeah, twice, and then I take a little time getting to something is true, so I don't get it in the first or the second. So I over time I've come to seeing that there's a certain pattern. I take some time believing something before you could positively confirm that no, this is not a fluke, this is, yeah. So it's a little scientific approach, but I take a little time getting it. I'm from the human race, yeah, with a scientific bent of mine, and less likely to believe things fast. Yeah. So so then I noticed a certain pattern, and then once you do, then you notice you're somehow I'm doing something that I call it healthy and natural breathing. I basically heal myself, but I heal in a way that I'm not offensive, but in a way that's inclusive and heal. I've been calling it as healing the fabric of time and space. And there's a how-to of it. I teach those interested. This video, for example, is a consequence of attempting to teach. the condition of being human, or what I regard as the shape of a human body. Yeah. Now, having said that, one of the things that I did here have an indication of is that life would really like to heal, like COVID, tiny virus, mother life would really like to heal, but my consuming non-veg is not really helping the matter. I can heal to a certain extent, but not really go beyond a certain point because I have non-veg. So then I stopped eating non-veg, meat, fish, eggs, tea, coffee, sugar, salt, oil, and even boiling vegetables. So I've come to what I call as a meristematic diet. And I found that this is a, a, a way of cooking, a way of selecting ingredients and certain ingredients that is more conducive to a human composition, food fit for humans. And this includes milk. And some of our intolerance, allergies, is because of our metabolic concerns. But as babies, we have been consuming milk. We are mammals. So our intolerance is what is not allowing for us, some of us, to have milk. But so I call it meristematic diet. I'll make another video. I have been making videos about it, but I'll speak about it a little more. Now this video is about the shape of a human body. Yeah. Now, having gone beyond meat, I discovered the light and dark aspects of our compositional make. So there is the white goddesses and the dark goddesses. Now we say, so that now there are many images, yeah, gods and goddesses with many hands and many heads, yeah. I think historically people have been trying to communicate the shape of a human body, and they are represented as violent forms, which means peace hasn't been found, yeah. So there are many weapons and all of that. So what does it take to be peaceful and not go into goddesses, yeah, or demonesses? Now, there's also a dietary practice, yeah, and how we maintain health. I discovered textbooks talking about 49 metabolic processes. We'll talk about that later, but this is also in reference to healthier natural breathing. So I call it as healthier natural breathing. But there's also the idea of Parvati Dashamahavidya, which is talking about, it's apparently dark and tantric and all that, but I think they're referring to metabolic processes of the dark, yeah, which means there's a light and dark self, aspects to ourselves, like good wolf, bad wolf, apparently. So sexuality is part of the shadow self. It's more like, oh, sin, yeah, we don't talk about it in the open, those are all, behind the shadows and under covered wraps. And so there is the visible, what we can speak about as civil and nice, and then there is dark or shadow aspects of what we don't openly speak about. We are all civil people, we don't talk about them. And then there is the metabolic processes, which are also part of our human nature, but not talking about it or not knowing about it or how to manage health of it affects the quality of life, affects the quality of civility, affects the quality of humanity across boundaries. WHO's list of diseases, economic challenges, longevity concerns, umbrella list of, challenges that is yet to be addressed. Shape of a human body, light self, dark self, yin yang, yeah? And what does it take to maintain being human such that the light and dark selves are complementary and not trying to have multiple personality disorder concerns, yeah? Then you would have, some aspect, so, for example, some of the abuse cases is also from not knowing the shape of a human body, yeah? And then there's a male and the female aspects. And each person having a complementary partner, like the Ardhanarishwar. So we may not be regarding ourselves to having 20 aspects, yeah, and that we are complement, you know, in the shadow aspects, what we don't really have not taken into consideration is our complementary partner, who we meet as our life partner when the time is right, and then the marriage. Say a lot of us are married, and then to see how we are related, yeah, and then to see compatibility we talk about, and lifelong and infinitely being married. That is, we can consider that. Otherwise, you only talk in terms of, say, 7 lifetimes, and then it's you talk about the 7-year itch and all those things. Yeah, that is also talking about metabolic concerns not appropriately addressed, and consequently having marital concerns, or society formed from it, or culture differences, religion concerns, and this is all human concerns. We are all human beings, but challenges in maintaining being human, because the shape of a human being may not have been discovered. And then there is a male and female, complementary partners. It's like this: male and female. When we say Ardhanarishwar, if you have a body that's female, you don't know that there is masculine aspect as your complementary partner. When you are doing the right things, it's like the idea of the Turk Makto in the movie Avatar. There's this idea of the Turk Makto, which translates to the last shadow of doubt. Yeah, riding the last shadow of doubt. So that is like your complementary partner. Yeah, but it takes so many stages of discovering your own self, 20, yeah, and then discovering your another 20 there, yeah. So it's like you see one side, this side, they say behind every man, behind every man is a woman, and behind every woman is a man. The actual quote is behind every successful woman is a man, and behind every successful man is a woman, yeah. But consider that every person has a man and a woman, and consequently, how well you're keeping your with your conscience and working with your light and dark self is also to the extent that you are successful, to the extent that you are. That's talking about like this, yeah. When we can stand upright and not go kowtow all the time. If you're doing kowtow, that's also talking about how the male and female nature of your make is. You may be more a kowtowing person. Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. Like, yeah, I'm like this sometimes. I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry. Just be, yep. So depending on where our souls come from, how we are, what's a compositional make. Accordingly is our behavior, and then we are in different stages of success. Yeah, 40 now, and within our 20 is Dashavatara Dashami. Yeah, that means 10 aspects of our, even if are visible, yeah, it's about the light and the dark self, which means it includes sexuality too, and how we take care of those nurture, and maintain health consequently. The quality of our life is also, for example, if you're going to act out on every impulse, that's how much you don't have you have civilization concerns, or rather, yeah, that's also where gluttony, for example, 7 cardinal sins, yeah, greed and guilt, and yeah, 7 cardinal sins has already been spoken about. I don't think they're talking about the 8th one, yeah. So I mean, we cannot cover all of that in once, because I've been thinking about all of this in some time. So now I'm kind of talking about the shape of a human body, so I'll pause now, so we're not talking too much. But when we are eating non-veg, the dark side, yeah, which is also, for example, non-veg, and let me say non-veg, sexuality is also regarded with non-veg. Yeah, in a way, non-veg jokes, for example. When we are eating non-veg, we are catering to the death side. So there's a libido and destrudo, like birth and death cycles. So there is poiesis and apoptosis, like birth and death cycles. Our ability to maintain being alive and human and humane, longevity, is also how we take care of the heaven and hell, is another way to look at it. When we take care of our heavens, yeah, we're not going into heaven. Yeah, we can be on earth, yeah, and doing the good work. We're taking care of our dark, our hell. We don't have to go to hell, yeah, but we can keep the yin and yang bit humane, fine enough. And when we have the clear in between, like the Higgs and pigs. Higgs is like, oh, you get all heavenly oil, yeah, Mars and big and what. And pigs is like, oh, the lowly self apparently. But you need both in a complement, yeah, yin and yang. And when you keep it together, I call it as Huga, yeah, love. So we also need to manage our love between the light and dark self, cares, and then to be able to take care of life apparently, as we need to. Otherwise, we don't have a hearth in our living room, yeah? We don't have a homely feeling. We don't have that sense of being part of a family. Our own relationship with our own body maybe not so fine as it needs to be. Our cares get disturbed, yeah? And our sense of familiarity, family, and that may be a little disturbed. Um, um, and so our civil behavior, societal, antisocial behavior may be coming from how much that may not be an already existing part, or how much of care has not been taken care of. So there must be no care, they didn't do this, and so we may not be feeling as whole as we would like to. Our human body yearns for it. And so sometimes this movie Crash, yeah, I just read one dialogue from there, or heard a human touch. We sometimes miss it so much that we crash into each other just so we can feel something, yeah. So sometimes care not as much experienced. Maybe you haven't been hugged in some time, so that human touch has been missing since some time. Friends, some people have it as a regular practice. You say hello to each other, you hug, yeah. But some people have a difficulty even shaking hands because they are so much withdrawn, or icky people, human, yeah, what are you talking about? So that may have been their experience of life, so they don't want, yeah. So Higgs, pigs, Hugo, white, black, clear. The Hugo I regard to be more clear, but our body is also, when there is, say, the water of our body is contaminated, our body is at least